Hey, I'm Prom. Nope, I don't like it at all. Hey everyone, I'm Proma,
And I'm Radhika,
and
and
together
together
we're
we're
Prom
Prom
Rad.
Rad.
Once again, don't know if it's together, don't know if it ever will be.
December in the media world literally just means end of year lists, and I think they're one of my favorite things to both consume and create for myself.
Ironically, this was the year that I was tracking it really well at work. Like I had a document going throughout the year of like, okay, this is a contender for best shows, episodes, performances, because I knew that at the end of the year I would have to like pitch those to someone and like compile them, and then I got laid off, so
I think it's so hard to categorize like here are the top 10 shows, here are the top 10 movies. Like there is so much to debate on those things, and it takes the fun out of what we actually enjoyed.
it's also so stressful to have to rank stuff as well. So I think no rankings and just including everything. This is our best everything of the year, entertainment wise.
And that could be so specific of like a performance that we really enjoyed or a show that wasn't talked about much or, you know, an album that I really liked. And there's no rhyme or reason other than the fact that we enjoyed it and that we want to talk about it. And it brought us joy this year in a year that needed a lot of joy, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. Well, some of my picks are stressful, but yeah, I think the kind of criteria that I had just was what did I watch or consume again that I was thinking about long after it was over? What kind of felt like it would stay with me or like rewired my brain a little, made me rethink also just what's possible within whatever the medium is. And that's a really exciting set of things to use as a prompt for this.
Something that I like to do when I see something because I want to have an immediate conversation, I fire up a podcast. And or I look at Letterboxd, which I've become way more involved with this year. And I just like to see what other people are talking about, gain other insights from people. I think that's such a fun thing about consuming content with other people. And even if it's other people in like different countries and different people that you don't know, having different perspectives is such a fun part of it. And just seeing like, oh, this thing that I really connected to also like made someone else feel a different type of way or just that we are all responding to the same thing is also such a powerful experience. And yeah, so a lot of my things are moments that I was like, oh, I like I'm still thinking about this however many months later.
My first thing is the soundtrack of Sinners. When I heard it, when I heard that first like humming melody that Miles does that becomes like the big set piece in the middle of the film, when I heard that in the top of the movie, it was almost like I had heard it before. Like it just resonated somewhere deep inside me, which is also amazing given the themes of the film and how that is introduced, right? And how it's used later in the movie is like they actually came up with a melody that like transcended time and space, and spoke to me. I don't know, it like moved me really deeply. And the other thing is this, the entire soundtrack is kind of like that too. Like you listen to early pieces on it and they carry these sort of notes of melancholy or of something sinister. And that's like a very typical thing for a movie soundtrack to do, but when I rewatched it too, like I got chills from that, knowing what happens and knowing, that first shot of Smoke and Stack when the camera pans over and you see there's two of them.
Mhm.
There's something really quite dark and sad in there in the music.
Music is such a big part of its thesis and what it's trying to say about Black culture and how it interacts with white culture and just how what we take from each other and like you said, that one piece of it transcending time and space. The fact that you felt that before that scene had even happened is really
Like
powerful.
at the top of the movie, not knowing anything that I was getting into. I heard that and I was like, I've heard this before, right? But I like,
Yeah. Okay, my first pick is A Nice Indian Boy, which is a romantic comedy that came out earlier this year. It is directed by Roshan Sethi and stars Karan Soni and Jonathan Groff. When you say joy, this movie is so beautiful and special, and it's a queer rom-com, which in the South Asian space we don't see very often. And I think like that's powerful in and of itself. But what I really responded to in this movie was the story of how Karan's character interacts with his parents. And there's some really great scenes of the wedding planning and all these beats that we know of an Indian wedding and how that goes and the whole planning process. But there's a scene of Jonathan Groff with the father character, and they're cooking in the kitchen and they're just talking about their lives and there's a really beautiful moment where the father mentions that he had these dreams of being a chef, and he, kind of hints that Karan and his sister don't know about those things. And when he says, well, they just never asked, it was like so heartbreaking, but also so illuminating, and a reminder that sometimes we forget that our parents are people too, and they've had these lives, and we've just come along like however many years into it, and they've lived a whole life, and they are full people that have dreams and aspirations and heartbreak and all of these things. And that scene crushed me, and I really noticed it. I saw it twice in theaters, and I really noticed it on the second one, and it was the thing that kind of stayed with me after, even though it's like really not the central part of that story. But I just thought this movie was so excellent. It's a really good thing to watch with your family. It's so like heartwarming. And shout out to my friend Rashi Kulkarni who did the music, and she just got nominated for an award for it, and she's amazing. And just overall, I just think it's like such a celebration of who we can be as people, and it's very accepting and beautiful, and I loved it.
I mean, I 100% agree. The only reason it's not on my list is because I got to, I screened it out of South by Southwest last year. So that's a 2024 title for me. The writing and direction is so fun. Again, it's such a celebration. It's so joyful. I've been a big fan of Roshan's also since 7 Days, which is the
Really.
movie, yeah, which we both loved that he made about a little pandemic romance, which is just so lovely. So watch A Nice Indian Boy, but if you haven't seen 7 Days, watch 7 Days. It's so good.
And also low key follow Roshan on Instagram. He is has some really good hot takes about the industry that I think are super valid and like start really good conversations. And
All right, my next one is Sunset Boulevard on Broadway. I went into this show knowing absolutely nothing. I hadn't even seen the movie. This was directed by Jamie Lloyd, who's like kind of like a very hot, edgy Broadway director right now. They incorporated cameras into the stage production. Actors and dancers who have been trained to become camera people, holding these rigs and these Ronans, getting close up of the people speaking that is being projected on the back of the screen. So while you're seeing the actors perform like the way you would from potentially the nosebleed seats, you're also seeing close-ups of their face, closer than you would ever get, even in like front orchestra. So you're having simultaneously the experience of theater and film, and they were integrated so smoothly. I thought the camera work was stunning. All the cast was pretty much just wearing black the whole time too, so costuming wise, it kind of went a different direction, but it was very immersive. The dancing was phenomenal, and Act Two opens with a big tracking shot, which is the lead actor Tom basically walking down. He is walking down the street, like 45th Street or whatever, at the top of intermission, in the middle of the street in New York City, and they're tracking him on the camera. There's like people there to kind of help clear the way, make sure nothing goes wrong. Again, that footage is being projected in the back of the auditorium, and then eventually he like walks through the door into the house. It was stunning. And of course, like I have to mention Nicole Scherzinger too, who's so good. I did not know she had that voice, and I'm sorry for not knowing. But she made us cry. Like the thing is, there was one thing after another that was jaw-dropping phenomenal, followed by another. Like
I didn't know most of the things that you just laid out, and that sounds like even more incredible. I do hope they somehow do the touring version of it, but I don't know if it'll hit the same way. Although, I mean, Sunset Boulevard is here. So,
yeah.
okay, my second one is also a movie, and I think it's probably my favorite movie that I saw this year, and I was not expecting it, which is Twinless. It stars Dylan O'Brien and James Sweeney, who also wrote and directed it. And it's basically about this support group of people who are twins who have lost one of their twins. So these two characters meet in this support group and quickly become really integral parts of each other's lives. But of course, there's like something more going on, and I'm not going to spoil it because I think the way that this film unfolds is part of the beauty. Like, I thought it was so perfectly paced. We do get a flashback at a certain point where we do meet Dylan O'Brien plays twins, so we meet the other twin that he plays, and you're immediately like, oh, no wonder everyone's life is crushed by the loss of this person. And he is so committed to the playing both parts, and they are so distinctly different from each other, and it's so impressive to see that just in the scope of one movie. I'm like why is Dylan O'Brien not more of a household name? Why is he not in everything? I know he was in Maze Runner or whatever. Never saw those movies. I think he's so talented, and I did not know that until this movie, I think. And the soundtrack also, the score is beautiful. They have some fun gimmicks throughout the film, including a couple needle drops that were like pitch perfect. The timing of when the title sequence even comes, like the title card even comes in, is it's all just very different to anything that I had seen before, and I responded like so well to it, and it was such a good theater experience for me. Like I had a blast.
This is a good rec that I'm going to take into the holidays.
Yes. Things get dark, but complimentary, you know?
Okay. Main question is if there's sex scenes because parents.
There is.
Okay, so no.
So no.
All right, my next pick is Clothesline, which is a dance performance that I saw, I guess, a little over a month ago here in New York City. It was concepted, created, choreographed by Jivika Bhatt, who is a very, very skilled Odissi dancer. It was the life cycle of a sari through all these different movements, like when it's being stitched, when it's being sold, when it's being worn for the first time, being passed down from mother to daughter in a family, which I thought was really beautiful. It was one of the things that I did feel like being an Indian woman in the audience, like this is very much made for me. I am wearing my mother's saris, but I just thought it was so well done. The dancers were excellent also. Like they had to do so much. Most of them, I believe, are not trained in Odissi, but they had to learn that body language, and I think they did their best. More than anything, I noticed they were so expressive. Everyone's face was doing so much. And I sat very close to them, but it wasn't a big space where, so you are seeing that. And the fact that everyone having emotion and bringing it to all those pieces clearly mattered to Jivika was very apparent to me, and I think really just elevated the whole thing. So, Jivika, if you're watching, I freaking loved this. Please bring it back.
That's beautiful. And like I love the idea of taking an inanimate object like that and imbuing it with all the emotion that it does carry for so many people. I think that's one of the beautiful things about art in general, is the ability to do that. So I don't know if you saw, but my Spotify listening age is 39, which is because I listen to the emo music from my youth. But one of my absolute favorite bands is Paramore. And the lead singer of that band is Hayley Williams. She released an album this year, surprised everyone actually with this drop. And she dropped it on her website that was like fashioned to be like a 2000s desktop computer where you had to click into each. It was the whole thing that I did because I love her so much. And the music is phenomenal, and she is making a statement in the songs. She's one of those artists who's not afraid to get political, and she did a performance, I believe it was Fallon or Colbert, a song that is about growing up in the South and having a fraught relationship with religion. And she employed a bunch of Black musicians to help tell that story. And she's very thoughtful in the way that she executes her music and in the lyric writing and in the performance style. I highly, highly recommend to anyone who is even vaguely interested in this type of music. The album is called Ego Death at a Bachelorette Party because it's about Nashville becoming a bachelorette destination. Um, and the song Love Me Different, I literally listened to it on repeat for a week. It made my top five for the year. Everything about her, I love it. She's incredible.
Paradise on Hulu and Pluribus on Apple scratched the same little itch in my brain, which was really nice. And it's been fun because the year started with Paradise, and we're now closing it out with Pluribus. First seasons, sci-fi shows, week-to-week release, which is a lost art. So Paradise is from Dan Fogelman, who created This Is Us. It is nothing like This Is Us, except that Sterling Brown is the star and executive producer.
The fact that the first episode is like a red herring for the entire show.
He
That is a
does love
Dan Fogelman signature move.
Yes, or he loves a twist like that. I think Sterling K. Brown alone, I was like, cool, I'm watching, and it's my favorite show. But these are two shows that I also binged with my parents over holidays, and we all three of us got hooked. Like, so that was fun too, of having the collective shared viewing experience, which a lot of the times as a critic you don't get to do. You're watching stuff alone at home, weeks or months out, and you can still appreciate the artistry, but not the collective response in that way. So we were so hooked in. And same thing with Pluribus. I went in not knowing anything. That's from Vince Gilligan, who created Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, and stars Rhea Seehorn from Better Call Saul. And it's just a tour de force for her. A lot of it is just is solo shots of her, individual stuff, a lot of silence, not even with music, just silence. Both stunning, suspenseful sci-fi shows, the kind of thing that makes me just really want to tune in week to week. And I still haven't watched the Pluribus finale, even though I have it, because I'm saving it. I'm saving it. Some of you are waiting till the end to binge. I'm out here waiting longer between episodes than I have to. I'm different.
I absolutely loved Paradise. That was just a fun ride. Like you said, the week to week, just being like, what is happening on the show? My parents also watched it and loved it. Yeah, and then Pluribus, similar, like it is a slow burn because it is basically a one-woman show of that, like I think most of the episodes have just been her. Um, but it is, like you said, such a fun existence to just like be in her presence, and she is such an engaging presence on screen that you don't even notice half the time that it's just her. But yeah, I'm really interested to see how that one wraps up, and that one's also coming back for a season two. I feel like there hasn't been as many well executed high concept shows in a
They're
minute.
they're relevant in a way that we can't relate, but I'm wondering if and when we will relate.
Oh God. This is one that I did not see coming, and then it blew up, and it's Adolescence. I remember watching these screeners, and it's only 4 episodes, each an hour long, each shot in a single take. And oh my God, stressful does not begin to describe it. I'm still thinking about it, and there are still shots of that have stuck with me. Owen Cooper's performance is insane, and he deserved all the awards that he got at the Emmys this year. I just think it was such a well done way to talk about the subject matter, which is about rising violence in young males, and how social media and the internet are exacerbating those things. And I think that is a conversation that as a society we do need to have. But I was just absolutely floored by the performances, the production, just the story. Like the writing is so taut, and the way that it unfolds over the 4 episodes, because there is the first episode is the initial investigation into, the arrest and everything. And then the next episode is kind of going to the school and kind of understanding some of the surroundings of it. And then the third, which is like one of the most insane acting performances I have ever seen, is Owen Cooper's character speaking with the child psychologist, and their back and forth, and the way that he's playing the game and she's playing the game, and they're trying to get certain things out of each other. Insane writing right there, and insane acting. And then the fourth is such a heartbreaking view of just what happens to the family after such a tragedy. Like, how do you pick up the pieces? And I can't say enough good things about it. It is an incredibly difficult watch, especially if you are a parent. So, of course, keep that in mind. But there is nothing else that I watched this year that stuck with me in quite the same way.
Yeah, I think I didn't respond to it as much after the first episode when I watched just that one because it was so difficult thematically. Like, I don't even think I registered the craft that was going into it until I watched the rest. But like you said, it's so visually stunning and compelling and talking about, overlapping kind of theater and film sensibilities. You don't have to shoot a story like this in a single take. You don't have to put yourself and your crew through that. You don't have to put your actors in that like contained space where they're essentially doing this 1 hour long play. But they did it and they did a fantastic job of it. Adolescence, dare I say, a trying condition in these times.
Yeah. No, and it's crazy because the first episode ends literally with us seeing what happened, and I just couldn't accept it. And I think that's also our TV has trained us with the true crime stuff to
Yeah.
think of, what is the twist here? And it's like, there is no twist. This is what happened. We're laying it out for you, and here's the fallout. And then my last one is another film. It's been a film year for me. This is the Iranian film It Was Just an Accident. It's from the director Jafar Panahi. Basically, there is a man and his family, their car breaks down, and they stop at a local mechanic. And while they're there, the mechanic notices something about the man who is the driver that makes him think that this is a man that had held him captive during the war. And it unfolds from there where he basically rounds up a bunch of people who were also held captive with him. And all of them had been blindfolded, so they don't know what this man looks like. And they're just going based off of what they had heard him say, the way that he walked, and like other physical attributes of this person. And it turns kind of into a black comedy at a certain point because they're arguing with each other about who's right and whether they should do this. But it's also you're talking about morality at the end of the day of do you enact revenge on someone who has done some of the worst possible things to you? And what do you do when you're faced with a situation like this? How do you react as a human? And it has one of the best endings I have seen this year. It has, again, stayed with me from when I left that theater. I think I sat in my seat for a very long time, just kind of processing. It has been shortlisted for the Oscar International Feature, and it had premiered at Cannes and it won the top prize there, the Palme d'Or. And so it has been in conversation really since festival season started, and I think that will continue through award season. And I think it's so well deserved. It is the first movie that I've seen by this director, and all of his movies are political. And we should say that he was recently arrested
Yep.
because of his outspoken nature about against the regime there. So there's a lot of political, not just undertones, but like overtones in his films. But I think what he has to say is very interesting, especially in this political moment at a global stage. And I highly recommend checking this one out. I think it will come back to theaters.
Yeah, once it's back in theaters, I will definitely, because I've only heard amazing things, and I didn't even actually, I stayed away from like plot synopsis or anything, so now I'm even more intrigued than before.
Yeah, and I hope I tried to not give anything away, but
You do know.
it great.
I was like, well, reminds me of that one episode of Lost, but when am I not thinking that? There's many, many incredible on-screen performances this year, on screen and on stage. However, one that has stuck with me that really moved me in the theater that I wanted to shout out is Bridget Everett in Wake Up Dead Man. She only has one scene in the movie. She's not on screen with any of the other characters. She's on the phone with Josh O'Connor's character, with Father Judd. And she just makes a dynamite impression. She does such a good job. She goes through kind of a few different tones, almost like within the scene. It shifts from one genre to another. Brian Johnson has spoken about this, the writer and director, about how that's like a huge moment for Father Judd's character, kind of reconnecting with his purpose amid the ongoing murder investigation. But again, it's Bridget Everett who does that, who brings him in. Her character's name is Louise, I believe. So she kind of re-anchors him, and then that actor is who re-anchors the audience to also understand that this is about more than just a body and a culprit and whatnot. And because Bridget Everett is great, like we've known this, but more people need to pick up on it every single day.
Yeah, I was gonna say I haven't seen this movie yet. I know it's now streaming on Netflix, but I love Bridget Everett. Somebody Somewhere was truly one of my absolute favorite shows of the last 5 years. And Jeff Hiller popped up in Pluribus, and
It's a great
uh,
week for our friend.
it's a great week for, I mean, we'll support them to the end. But I mean, that's a shout out for a free rec for anyone of a non-2025.
Okay, speaking of non-2025 things though, like obviously we didn't just consume 2025 stuff this year. So I'm curious, was there any one honorable mention that you've really enjoyed that you watched, read, consumed this year, but wasn't from 2025?
I'm so glad you asked. Um, I I used to be one of those people that read books a lot. And
I shared a bookshelf with you, I remember.
yes, and there's nothing I love more than buying a book, reading it, getting to the part where I read it has proven to be more and more difficult as I've gotten older and gotten more addicted to my phone. And so I've been consciously trying to get back into those habits. And at the beginning of the year, I set a goal for myself, and it started with My Brilliant Friend. It is a Italian book series. There's 4 books in it. And so the goal that I had this year was that I was going to read one of those books per quarter. I'm still reading the 4th book. It is not quite the end of Q4, so I have like 2 weeks to finish it. This has been one of the best ways for me to get back into reading because these books are phenomenal. And they basically the story is very simple. It is about these two Italian girls who are born in the 1950s, I believe, and it just tracks their lives and the ways that they move in and out of each other's lives, the ways that they backstab each other, the ways that they support each other, the ways that they, just are constantly in each other's lives, even if it's, for better or for worse, they are in each other's lives. And the things that happen to them are like heartbreaking. The decisions that they make are sometimes infuriating, but you are so engrossed and involved in it. And I think the best part of having this is I read each book each quarter, but then there's also an HBO adaptation that is such a good adaptation. It is like perfectly done. And having just finished reading the book and then watching the season, because there's 4 seasons, there's one season per book. And having that as like a little treat after I finish each book has been like truly one of the highlights of my year this year. And I need something, I need like a similar thing for next year because I like this was such a fun activity for me. And it really did scratch the itch of getting me back reading. And I've looked forward to starting the new book every time. And now that I'm at the end, I'm kind of sad.
I am so delighted by this because, listen, I haven't read the books and I'm sorry for that. But as you know, I am a day one consumer of the HBO series. I don't even know what made me watch it, but I was just like put on this show one day and I was like, okay, I guess it's fully in Italian. And like we were there, we lived together when it started, and I would just be like so locked in, so immersed in this show week to week again, season to season. And like sometimes they would do like 3 years between. I feel like they had long hiatuses. It's so immersive. It's very, very well done. And I feel like nobody on the planet watched it. Like to be in a space as a TV and film critic, usually I'm used to having someone I can talk to on my team or like in my immediate network about a show. And this was like, I was like, I don't even think critics are watching this. Like no one knows. And I've just been so alone in that. So I'm very glad to have you there.
Yeah, if you're looking for an easy series, it's not too many books, not too much of a commitment, highly recommend. And it's not like it's that under the radar. The book was just named the number one book on the New York Times list of books from the century. So if you're not going to take my recommendation, take the New York Times' recommendation. Same question back to you. Is there anything not from this year that you enjoyed this year?
I'm so glad you asked. Actually, similarly, it is a book because I'm also love to buy books, love to forget to read them. When I got laid off, my friend Aaron, shout out Aaron, also a former IndieWire employee. Aaron gave me like a stack of books this high, which is sitting next to me right now. And the first one that I read was How to End a Love Story by Yulin Kwong. It came out in 2024. It is about a novelist who goes to LA where one of her successful books or book series is being adapted into a TV show, a miniseries. It turns out that one of the writers on that series is a guy she knew from high school, and they have kind of a dark past. It's not like, okay, we dated in high school, we broke up. They're both bonded together by this pretty serious incident that affected both of their lives. And then, at the same time, they've been totally separated for many years. They have not had any interaction. They end up kind of feeling a vibe. There are sparks. It's like a very like steamy romance novel, but also there's this complicated emotional layer. As a writer and a lover of TV, there are so many specific attacks in this book, and then including the fact that they have to resolve a very challenging dynamic. And I liked the way the book approached it. I felt like it was very sensitive to the material, but then also, yeah, just like a very like fun soapy read at the same time. It's hard to thread the needle of both, but it did.
Do we want to talk about a couple of honorable mentions that we both had? Because making a list, there's always cuts, and
Yeah.
we enjoyed a lot of things this year. So
We both had overcompensating on here. For me, it was just the best representation of college that I've seen in a very long time, if ever.
agreed, and specifically our college, because all of the people are crucially our age and evoking like early 2010s vibes, and also just extremely funny.
Extremely funny. Loved
And
it. Standing ovation in my living room for the pilot.
my first one is this film called Cactus Pears, which the Marathi name is Sabarbonda. Again, another queer love story out of India. Um, I saw this at IFLA, which is a film festival here, and I was floored. It was a beautiful, again, meditation on what love means, but also how grief fits into that, and how you can still have hope feeling both of those things, feeling both of those really strong emotions.
Severance, season 2, episode 7, Chikai Bardot. Like Severance was firing on all cylinders this season, I think. And well, I take that back. There's one episode that isn't. But it's not this one. This one was so, so good. It was the directing debut of Jessica Lee Gagne, who is one of the incredible cinematographers on the show. It's just so well written and acted and filmed. Like when you have a DP directing, what a privilege.
I got to talk to Deechin Lockman about that episode specifically, and it's just amazing how layered that show is. And it's finally a showcase for her because she's been kind of in the background of the show for so much, and she's such a crucial part of the character's outie life that we were all, I think it was like we've been waiting to learn more about them, and we finally got it in this episode.
And it's an immense amount of pressure for her as an actor to be in that position, to be this character who's kind of like the hinge upon which Mark's entire world swings, at least Audi Mark. And for us to have bought into that just kind of on his word for a season and a half, more than that at this point, and then showing us and actually proving it and getting the audience to, well, the audience mileage has varied, but so has critical thinking. But to get us to root for Gemma and Mark in just an hour was really, really amazing, given how much time and how much buildup has been given to certain other relationships in the show.
And I don't think the finale works without this episode like succeeding, you know?
Completely. God, oh, I love the finale too.
Yeah, finale is great. The back half of that season is pretty good.
Well, not all of it.
I mean, also maybe basic, but The Pit, like, loved. It's just network TV on streaming,
Yeah.
and love that for us. I love, as you know, I watched almost every season of Grey's Anatomy. I only very recently stopped, and breaks my heart
I
occasionally.
didn't
Like
know
to
that.
realize, yeah, I just got to a point where I was like, I kind of don't care about this anymore.
I,
And
I didn't realize you were going through a breakup. I'm so
yeah,
sorry.
my longest, my longest relationship. But I think part of it is like The Pit kind of is scratching that itch, and it's not even remotely as soapy as Grey's is, and it's way more intense, and like the drama is all medical based versus it being about the the extracurricular activities that these that these doctors are getting into. Noah Wiley at the center of it is incredible. The casting is really amazing because it's finally a diverse cast. There's a lot of brown doctors, which I think reflects our reality.
It's
But
great to not have a brown doctor in any show is like it's not just like detrimental representationally, it's factually inaccurate.
incorrect. Yes, I wrote a whole essay about that
I
like 10
remember.
years ago. And it's not to say that I need an Indian person to be on a show, but it is very cool to finally see there's multiple of them, and therefore we are not typecast into a certain type of doctor, right? There's various, variations of who we can be on screen as a doctor, which is important to me. But I also just it's such an easy concept of like, it's very 24 vibes of each episode is an hour of this shift, and the craziest stuff is happening during that shift. But being with them for every second of it, like there's nothing better. And I that is another show that is coming back in I
In
think a
January
month.
8th, I think.
Yeah.
Real
And
soon.
it just proves that we can do that. We can be a great nation again.
That's what I'm being told constantly. I loved the paper, The Office spinoff on Peacock. Just like a cute little mockumentary. They had 8 episodes, which is not the length of, a full season of The Office. It's a lot more work to do in building the characters and the relationships. I just found it like laugh out loud funny. Like I laughed a lot when I was watching it, and I appreciate that from a situational comedy. And that's all I will have to say about that.
The last one for me is this band called Penelope Road. I discovered them on TikTok because I am addicted to my phone, like I mentioned. But what a joyful surprise. There's a group of like 5 or 6 young men, great voices. They all interchange what they're doing. Like, so sometimes one person's singing, sometimes he's playing guitar. There's a pianist. Like, they're just so talented, and their music is very soothing. It's very like indie soulful vibes. And I went to see them live, and it was such a fun concert, and their parents were there and they shouted them out and it was so beautiful. And I was just like, cool, I feel like I'm like in on the ground floor of like people who deserve to be famous, and I hope that they have all this success because I listened to their song Mercy so many times and it's a beautiful song and I recommend.
I put the Bastards of Bollywood, because I had a fun time. It was an entertaining ride in the same way that I would say something like Paradise was, where it was entertaining. I wouldn't necessarily say it was like the best objectively. But the pilot especially, I think we both agreed, like that first episode is just crazy, fun vibes, very tongue-in-cheek, satirical, cheeky. I think Aryan Khan might be a mad genius, but he's more restrained in the back half. But like in that very beginning, and I think towards the end, which is where we kind of debate about it, he really showcases his creative voice, and I'm excited to see more of it.
Yeah, this one's interesting. It's very similar to the studio in what I at least what I thought it was going to be because it starts as a satire of Bollywood, and I think it's really successful in the first half of the season. And then there is a point where he kind of just falls back onto traditional tropes and traditional ways of telling these stories that kind of disappointed me because I really thought he was on a trajectory of really saying something very incisive about the industry. And he himself is a Nepo baby poking fun at Nepo babies. And I thought it really started out at a place where I was like, oh, this is going to be really interesting and insightful. And I just feel like it kind of didn't get there for me by the end of it. But it was a fun ride. I will definitely give you that.
I felt like by the end again, it was, I mean, less about the incisiveness, but it did get crazy again, where I was like, oh, again, like something's going on up here. It's not the romantic twist that I saw coming. So
Yeah.
it was that.
Yes. Craziness in a way that I don't think I responded to at the end.
And that's fine. I want to shout out Andor season 2, which again, it's very much in the awards conversation. A lot has been said about it, but man, what an excellent show. And I think because the Star Wars universe has gotten pretty boring, like, and there's been so many ancillary texts in that world over the past decade plus. But well, yeah, a decade or so since like The Force Awakens, and most of it's been forgettable is the nicest and truest thing I can say. Andor is memorable. It is stunningly written and performed, and shot at everything. And it actually has like valuable political resonance. And I just thought this final season was, it's done in like little batches of 3 episodes, and it's just really, really well done. And I just think more people should be watching Andor and not watch any of the rest of it. Any of it. Maybe I don't even care if you watch Star Wars itself. Watch Andor. That's it. That's 2025
Yeah.
wrapped.
Happy holidays from Promrad. I feel like we should have been wearing Santa hats while we did
It's
this.
but it's like more New Year than
Okay, whatever.
yeah.
Anyways,
I hate you.